Hey, and welcome to this week's podcast episode. We're with Ian Walker from Arriving in Style. He's got a car hire business, and we met in a wedding fair in Bristol. It's fascinating chatting to him, and he's going to share some tips and tricks and hopefully help you save a lot of stress if you're booking your car hire business. So I'll bring Ian on straight away and introduce him and say hello. Hi, welcome to our podcast, Ian.
Hi, Bill. How's you doing?
We're good, yeah. A bit cold. I don't know what it's like over in Bristol, but it's flipping
Yeah,
freezing here in Wales.
it's pretty fresh. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So we met in that wedding fair in Bristol, um, and I was fascinated. Our stall was opposite yours, and I was taken with your Harley Davidson. I like my Harley Davidsons, and I thought that's unusual for a wedding hire company. Now, when I got ours, I thought maybe the bride would or the groom would want to ride on the back, but that's not the case, and we've never rented it out once. But you had a different take on that, didn't you? And that's how we got talking. That it escorts the cars, which is fascinating.
Yeah, we've so Arriving in Style was founded by myself and a colleague of a friend of mine. He's into his bikes, I'm into my cars. Um, so we've done quite a few weddings, and in particular, using the Harley, as you say, as an escort or an outrider, but also for photographs as well. Once we're at the church or at the venue, so it also happens to be almost exactly the same colour as one of our other special cars. That's the 1930 Model A Hot Rod. So pure coincidence, both the same colour, but a striking pair they make going along or stationary. So, and that's, I guess, really what Arriving in Style is all about. It's not just a journey. That's what we say, I think. And we'd just like to have a bit of fun with it and put smiles on our faces, the bride and groom's faces, and everybody that we drive past too.
Yeah, talking to you, you could see that it is about the journey and the fun. And you've got a few other vehicles that do that as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. A milk float, for goodness sake! But it was really interesting to find out about that. Um, One of the things I thought, if we start talking about tips and tricks for couples, because that's what they're interested in, watching
Hmm.
this. You've got some very desirable vehicles, and we've got nothing like yours, but one of ours that's very popular is a Porsche. Um, and I'm always telling people, I'm sorry, it's booked up. So if you were given a tip about when to book, especially desirable vehicles, how far advanced would you be recommending to couples that they contact you and other companies?
Well, I guess having multiple bookings on one day is one of those lovely problems to have. But as you say, we are starting to get booked up. Certainly in 2026, we even got two bookings for 2027. At the moment, we've got two bookings for one day in May of next year, so we have to resolve that. But they are for different vehicles, so all we do need to make sure is we've got the driver cover for doing that. So I would suggest 6 to 9 months is a good time. We've never had to turn anybody down yet. So the only thing we've done is we've had to substitute one car for another. But that's the joy of having classic cars, I guess, is that whilst they're not complicated to fix, their age of them just makes them a little bit more of a challenge. And I guess what we try to do is prevent any failures of the vehicles by keeping them maintained in tip-top condition. So
Have,
yeah,
have
I guess the answer to your question is 6 to 9 months would be a good
Six
time.
months, yeah. Do you would you recommend having a backup plan for the customers, or do you? So a vintage car can break down. I've actually experienced that. We went to one of my friends' daughters got married, and their car wouldn't start, but the car company had a backup straight away. So is that something you do, or would you expect the couple to have a backup?
No, I think they've come to a professional organisation because they would expect that from us as a supplier, and yeah, the joy of having multiple vehicles is that we can usually cover that. Now, I guess if you're wanting the milk float, and perhaps we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
If you wanted the milk float and you end up with a Rolls Royce, well, it's kind of different. Um, so we'd try and match up as close to the required vehicle as we can do, and we've got, as I said, some of our own vehicles, of course, but also we know of a number of other wedding car providers that could give us a choice of different different modes of transport, whether that's a Morris 1000, whether it's a classic Daimler. There are all sorts of other suppliers around our area, certainly, which we could call upon if needed.
Are you seeing any trends? You've got quite niche cars, but when people phone you, is there any particular trend that you're seeing? Is it more like limousine type cars or vintage cars? The different types of vehicles that you've got. Is there anything emerging that couples might be
Well,
interested in?
it's a good question. I would say generally people come to us for something a little bit different, a bit quirky, a bit eye catching. Um, so I would say until fairly recently, the gold coloured hot rod, the Model A, has been the most popular, and for a number of different reasons. Strangely enough, I asked a bride and groom why they chose my car. It was a wedding that we were doing for them up in Doncaster, in fact. So it's quite a long journey for us. So there had to be a very good reason for choosing us. And they said, well, actually, the reason we chose you is because the colour of your car matches my husband to be's hair. And sure enough, his hair was kind of orange, burnt orange. So it doesn't really matter what the reasons, as long as it fits the bill and makes their day a little bit more complete.
Yeah.
This year, having said all that, we've taken on it's a Daimler limousine, seven-seated limousine, as favoured by the British royal family, and I think the Queen Mother was reported to have 7 or 8 of them. Such is the sort of status and the comfort of it. But a lot of the reasons that we've been using that vehicle is because the back area is huge. It can take the biggest of wedding dresses. We had 7 bridesmaids in it on 2 occasions this year as well. So if space is a requirement, and if I don't know, just that sort of status bit of arriving in something just a little bit special. So we've seen that's been a very, very popular vehicle. But we're hoping to have our classic Rolls Royce 1957 Silver Cloud. That's been having a major engine rebuild this year.
I just put that up on the screen now. That's a stunning car. That
It
one.
is it is beautiful, but we've had to have that off the road for a wee while this year because it needed the engine being rebuilt. But now that's back up and running. So hopefully in 2026, that'll feature highly on the highly on the list because it is just a stunning vehicle.
Yeah. So when you're chatting to couples, when they first make their initial inquiry, do you talk about how many vehicles they need? Because one of the things I've seen with our business is that as it gets nearer to the wedding day, they've realised that they haven't thought about bridesmaids, they haven't thought about best men, and then it's a bit of a scramble to quite often our vehicles, we've got a minibus and a second car, but
Sure.
if they're booked out, they're booked out. So, um, do you advise on considering all guests, transportation being considered, or do
Yeah, I think we always sort of talk about the subject, not particularly to get more money
yeah,
out of
no,
the
no,
booking, but it's really to cover the aspects that perhaps the bride and groom hadn't really considered. I recall a wedding we did earlier this year down near Bristol, and the bride and groom, that was fine. That we're going to use the gold coloured hot rod. But then they wanted a minibus for the bridesmaids and the close family. And the rest of the congregation, they wanted to move from the church to the reception area. And we provided a double-decker bus, a London double-decker bus. It's not
Yeah.
something we have on our books, sadly, not yet. I don't think I'd get one of those on the drive. But we knew a man who could do it. And so, yeah, we were able to provide that was two cars, the minibus and the double-decker bus. So, yeah, I think we've kind of we'd like to cover it, or at least ask the questions, so there's no last-minute sort of surprises for the
Yeah.
bride and
Yeah. Another thing that we try to stress is that weddings now, particularly with registrars. I'm not sure what it's like in Bristol, but since COVID, we're so busy. The industry in general, every venue is packed. So the registrars are on tight schedules. So most of our weddings take place in our venue. So the registrars come to us, and we've got, let's say we've got a 2 o'clock slot. We try and plan and at least give the couples the heads up, about transport is such a key part for the bride arriving on time. And unfortunately, sometimes that gets lost in translation. And how do you cope with that? Have you got any tips that you can share to the couples?
I think, as you say, it can be quite a tightly orchestrated event. I guess our answer to that would be we always try and get to the pickup location, if that's a house or hotel or whatever. We always try and allow at least 30 minutes of contingency. And we do that in part because you never know quite what the British roads systems are going to be like, roadworks, traffic lights, or accidents. But also, it gives everybody the opportunity to relax one step further. There, the car's here, and we can take some photographs with the car before everybody gets in. So I think my simple answer to you there, Bill, is allow plenty of time, take away the stress from, is it going to turn up, is it not going to turn up. It gives us also the opportunity to do last minute finishing touches to ribbons or bows or whatever are the requirements of that particular vehicle requirement. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that would be my take.
But
Allow plenty of time.
you just touched on something there, which is interesting. Ribbons, and what do you provide? What do other car companies provide? What should people check? I know when we met at the showcase, you were very smartly dressed in your suit, and I've seen some cars that have turned up at our venue with no ribbons, a shabby driver, lovely car. And maybe it was a family friend. I don't know the details, but I think it's important to check what you're getting when you book a car company. And do you feel that's
Yeah, absolutely. I think you only get sort of one chance to make a first impression, and I think that's yes, they're buying into the car, but it's more than just the car. It is, as you said, the driver. It's how the car is finished and decorated. We provide as a standard to our sort of hire package, if you like, always ribbons and bows on the cars, and that can be the traditional white or cream, but we also can do any number of other colours based on the theme of the wedding, and whether that's dark blue. We did red ones this year. We've done tartan ribbons if the couple are,
Yeah.
or one of the people are from Scotland. So we can do all of that, customise it just a little bit more special. In terms of the driver, we liked, again, if we can, to have a bit of fun with that. At the wedding fair, I think I was in the Peaky Blinders look, the cloak and the white spats and all that. Again, if it's appropriate, we've done top hat and tails. In fact, we did a wedding at Bristol Zoo a few years ago before it closed. Yeah. And I said to the bride, I said, "Do you want us to dress up in like a monkey costume?" Thinking I was being funny. And she went, "Oh, would you?" So yes, I mean, I with the mask on and the gloves on, it was very funny, very impressive. Although I couldn't really see very much out of the tiny holes in the. So we only put those on about 100 yards away
Before
from
you
the
arrived,
source.
yeah, yeah.
But again, it made everybody smile. It made everybody just want to just enjoy that particular moment.
You need to get that.
Sorry about
That's
that.
okay.
Hope it
another,
won't be another
another,
book.
yeah, don't lose it. Another thing, we don't do many external hires now because we're so busy,
Sure.
But when we have done them, um, arriving at a venue where there was a long walk, it was raining, um, and we weren't expecting that. Um, so, have you had any horror stories, or would you any advice, about planning before talking to the venue before where's the car going to park, and also, I'm sure you've come across this where you're picking up the couple or the bride, and you can't park outside their house. So we always try to say, can you block some space off it? But sometimes it's just not possible, is it? Have you had any stories that you could share where the couples could learn from?
Yeah, I guess probably the biggest horror story was actually last year when I did my son's wedding
Oh, right,
in
yeah.
Bristol, and it was in the middle of July, guaranteed sunshine, except it absolutely poured down that particular day, and it was such a shame because they'd organised an open top double decker bus to go around the town. My car, obviously, for the bride and groom, and from where I could drop them off to the reception venue was probably 100 meters walk. Um, Beautiful location in Clifton, but there was just no way of getting them any closer than 100 meters away. So we always carry out obviously umbrellas in the cars. So yeah, I had to sort of escort the bride and the groom up the hill to the venue, trying to keep them as dry as possible. You can only do so much, and if the wedding is local to us here in Bristol, I will often do a dummy run the week before or so just to check that
Yeah,
can the vehicles turn around safely and easily. Are there any other sort of hidden nasties in there? Or we just have a conversation with either the bride and groom or a member of the family just to make sure that if it's possible to cone off an area at the house, at the pickup location, at the church, or at the venue. So yeah, I think it's one of those things that the more you prepare, the more the more you're going to a look professional, but also make that experience less hassle for the driver and for the bride and groom.
yeah. Uh,
Preparation.
I was going to just ask about like a typical timeline for you. So when you get to the venue, do you stay and let them do photographs with the vehicles after the ceremony? Um, are these things in your contract? What should a couple be looking for? Um,
Mhm.
because when they arrive, it's a mad rush really to get in with the registrars and get the ceremony over, and then they're talking to all the people they haven't met. So, um, do you wait and let them have photos? And if they were booking another company, that's something that they should be asking for. What would your advice be on that?
I think for us, because the cars are just a little bit more iconic, a little bit more special, they were likely to be choosing our sort of vehicles because of their uniqueness. In which case, then there is often the opportunity for photographs because that's what they've bought into basically. So it's not just the journey to and from. So we would normally allow up to an hour after the service or dropping off at the reception, just so that perhaps some of the members of the family who were in the church when we arrived, give them a chance to have a look at it. Perhaps some of the kids might want to come and sit in it
Yeah,
and have photographs taken. So yeah, it's all about trying to make maximizing the value that they get from having such a special vehicle as part of their journey on the
yeah,
day.
Yeah. Um, I'd like to talk about cost. I never ask anybody to tell us their cost because it changes all the time. But um,
Sure.
what would a sort of a typical vintage car cost if you were looking at your competitors across the board compared to a sort of a Mercedes or more the type of thing that we've got. Have you, and what add-ons some people will offer a bottle of champagne in. So if we're sitting here talking to a prospective customer who's not going to book with us, but just generally looking around, what sort of things would you say look out for or ask for?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, we try and do an all-inclusive sort of package price, really, because whether it's with in business or providing wedding cars, I don't like all these. Oh, by the way, you didn't ask for ribbons. That's an extra £20, or whatever it's going to be. So we like to give a complete inclusive package, and generally that would include obviously ribbons and bows of the colour of their choice. We try and do fresh flowers in the car that perhaps matches the bouquet um, to within certain criteria. We also obviously do the costume of the driver. We've touched on that already. Um, I say that we did a wedding last year down in Dorset where they wanted the driver to be dressed as the Stig from Top Gear. Well, that was a bit extra because we didn't have the white helmet and we didn't have some of the other gear. But again, we've got that now, so next time that will be
Another one, yeah.
part of the included package. The other nice thing that we've started doing, and now it's become a very popular add-on, if you like, and that is we try and do a number plate that's got the bride and groom's name at the top and the date on the bottom, and that looks really special for photographs on the day, but is also for them to keep as a souvenir
Okay.
of the car part of that journey. So these are they're stamped in metal. They're not just sort of stickers on a number plate. We do get them from America. They're made for us specifically.
So this is presumably an option that they can choose, is it, or do you do that
We,
standard for everyone?
we've now started doing that as part of the standard
Wow,
pack,
wow,
because some people might say, "Well, I'm not sure," but actually, when they see it,
they love it.
you think, "Wow, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
such a nice touch." So, yeah, we try and do that. I don't know
Maybe,
anybody else that does that, but it's
maybe
not
we can ask you to send us a photograph, or put after this has gone live, you can
sure.
put a photograph of that on. I think that's, we'll stick it in the comments. I think that's a really unique idea. Or maybe you keep it secret and just keep that for yourselves. I don't know, but
Well,
that's
no, that's fine. I mean, it's not beyond the realms of anybody to do it. It's
yeah.
just that, yeah, we were the first ones that I know that started doing it. So,
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, we're sort of coming to the end. I think there's been a really good insight. I always ask a couple of things. Have you got any red flags that you could share with couples? What should you really look out for? I'll give you one of mine. I always say um, when you're phoning a venue or you're phoning a supplier, how quick they get back to you before they've got your money, because if they're not good before they got your money, they're not going to be great after they got your money. So that's one of my red flags. What have you got that you'd share?
that's an interesting question. I think certainly customer service. I would agree with you there, Bill. It is so important to respond quickly, and whether that's to a phone call, to an email inquiry, or even a face to face, such as we experienced the other day at the wedding fair. Yeah, I think you have to be keen and show that you are taking their inquiry seriously, and the best way to do that is to return their contacts very quickly, and also to make sure that we're delivering exactly what they want. And if we can't do what they want for whatever reasons, um, then we'd be happy to say that's probably not for us. We would suggest you go company X or Y or Z. And like you, we know a number of other car vendors, perhaps not direct competition, but I'm more than happy to put them in touch with who I think is the right people for
Right,
them.
right for them. Yeah.
And hopefully then it pays off and we get some recommendations coming back another time.
Yeah, yeah. And the last thing I asked, but I think you've already covered this, but if you've got any others, any funny stories or any memorable moments, I think you've got so many. We've got the Stig, we got Dressed as a Monkey, we got all sorts, but any others that spring to mind that you could just finish off with?
Well, I think the Stig one was a great one because I asked the bride, as I do always, is there a theme? Do you want us to dress up? And then she said, "Oh, could you do the Stig?" And I spoke to a friend of mine who's another driver, and he managed to get hold of the white overalls and stuff. And but the bride never told the groom or any of the other guys in the wedding party that there was going to be this character turning up.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful location outdoors in Dorset, and so I delivered the bride and her father to the venue, and that was lovely, and lovely cars, and the groom and the best men, they were real true petrol heads. And then as the bride and her father walked up the aisle between the chairs laid out on the lawn, suddenly out between the trees jumped my friend, dressed as the Stig. And you could see all the guys going, "Oh, that must be, oh no, he's there." And they couldn't work out who it was that was dressed as the Stig. And that Stig was in every wedding photograph that whole day. He was playing croquet on the lawn with the bride's mother. It was just a great, great memory. And I'm sure the wedding photographs will be great, but they'll be even better because there was that strange character, the Stig, who was getting in on every opportunity. So, yeah, we have fun with it. And that's, I think, probably the takeaway from Arriving in Style as well.
Yeah, I think that's my takeaway from this. You obviously enjoy what you're doing, and it comes across really loud and clear. Thank you for that. That's amazing. Sharing all that insight. Hopefully, our couples, anybody watching this, will get something from it. Hopefully, you'll get some bookings from it as well, which would be great. But I'll say goodbye now, and thank you ever so much for coming on. I'll just say goodbye to all our guests, and I'll come back to you now just shortly. There we are. That wraps up today's thing. Please, if you've liked today's episode, considering like and subscribing. It will be amazing for us. And we'll see you on the next one. All the best. Bye-bye.